The Senate succumbed to pressure from within and outside when it reached a resolution to suspend any further legislative action on the contentious tax reform bills forwarded to it by President Bola Tinubu. The Senate, consequently, has decided to set up a 10-man committee to meet with the Attorney General and Minister of Justice on ways to resolve contentious issues in the bills. Arise correspondent Omo Bazuaye tells us more.
Senate returns to plenary on Wednesday, still weighed down by the controversies the proposed tax reform bills have in the last few weeks generated across the country.
You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
The strongest pushback to the tax bills has come from the north, with Senator Aline Dume from Borno State leading the pack in the Senate. Outside of the Senate, powerful voices like the Governors Forum and the National Economic Council have picked holes in the bills, applying pressure for them to be withdrawn for wider consultations. On Wednesday, Senate, in a complete U-turn from its previous tough stance on the matter last week when it passed the bill for second reading, caved in to the pressure and suspends further action on the tax bills.
We extended our view to the executive arm of government, and it was agreed that there should be a forum to sit down to look at the areas that are creating disagreements in order to resolve them, so that the entire country will remain united in our effort to solve our problems.
To enforce his resolution, Senate mandates its Committee on Finance to stop forthwith its planned public hearing on the tax bills.
It's on this note that the Committee on Finance that the bills have been referred to should halt action on public hearing and other issues until we resolve these issues.
It then set up a 10-man committee with Senate Minority Leader Abba Moro as chairman to liaise with the Attorney General and Minister of Justice to eliminate the contentious clauses in the tax bills.
There should be a forum that will sit with the Attorney General of the Federation so that we can sit and look at all the areas of disagreement and resolve them for the interest of this nation. It is therefore proposed that by tomorrow, there will be a meeting with the committee that will set up here and the leadership to sit down with the Attorney General to look at those issues and resolve them.
The VAT sharing formula has been a major source of conflict. The other stumbling block to the tax bill has been alleged hidden agenda, especially in the timing and the haste with which the tax bills have been pushed through. Omo Bazuaye, Arise News.
Joining us now is Senator Abba Moro, Senate Minority Leader and Chairman, 10-man Elders Advisory Committee on Tax Reform. Good morning, Senator Comrade Abba Moro. Good to have you on the morning show.
Good morning, Ruben. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Very good. Well, could you take us through the terms of reference of this 10-man Elders Advisory Committee on tax reforms, and why has it now just occurred to government that the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice should be consulted, something that could have been done even before now to address these same gray areas that are just been identified?
Well, thank you very much for this question, and to say that it is indeed my pleasure to be with you today to shed light on some of the issues that have arisen and concerns that have been shown by some critical stakeholders in our community. The main thrust of the terms of reference is to examine the proposed tax reform bills and identify gray areas, areas where critical stakeholders have raised some concerns. And I think in the wisdom of the government, there is need to interface with the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, because some of the issues raised border on the Constitution. And he, as the Chief Law Officer of Nigeria, certainly is in a very good position to bridge the gap of understanding between those who have shown some concerns and the government that is proposing these bills. I think essentially that is what the task is. Somehow, let me say here, I think that our focus at this point should be how to move forward, how to dot all the I's and cross all the T's in these bills in the interest of Nigeria. I'm not sure that Nigerians would want to go back as to the reason why certain things were not done before now. I think the most important thing for us now, as concerned citizens of this country, is to see how we can put right what is perceived to be wrong. And understandably, the president has shown some exemplary understanding of the concerns of Nigerians and demonstrated that he's a listening president, because at the time that the National Assembly, especially the Senate, was contemplating on how to go around the issues that have been raised, Mr. President also understood the need for all Nigerians, especially those who have shown some concerns, to carry all Nigerians along in the process. After all, the law is made for Nigerians. And so I think it's on this happy note that I want to say that we will do everything that we can to ensure that we address all the areas of concern and advise the government appropriately.
But the thrust of my question was, shouldn't the Attorney General of the Federation and the Attorneys General of the states, shouldn't they have been consulted before now? So it looks like the National Assembly was not doing what it should have done, only to come back now after this confusion has erupted. Tax reform, 4 bills, now the Attorney General has just been remembered.
Well, that is a question that somebody somewhere ordinarily should answer. But as to the case of the National Assembly, particularly the Senate, for instance, we have a process of lawmaking. And that process starts with the presentation of the bill. And in our system here, we prioritize executive bills, that is, bills coming from the government. And the first step in the process is the first reading of the bills. And then, of course, the second reading. Second reading, which involves a lead debate, that is, bringing out the pros and cons of the bills that are before the Senate. And after which the bill is referred to the committee for proper scrutiny. It is at that stage that if it becomes necessary, a public hearing is scheduled. And in the public hearing, all critical stakeholders, people who should know, are usually invited to come and contribute or make inputs in the process. It is the aggregation of these views vis-a-vis the bills that have been presented that comes back to the Senate or the National Assembly for a third reading. And the third reading is an examination of the compendium of views vis-a-vis the bill before it is finally passed. And so I want to think that as far as the process is concerned, the Senate has not actually not done what it should do, because the process was on. But I think to the benefit of the government and the Nigerian people, concerns have been raised. And like I said, Mr. President has listened to Nigerians and has agreed that there should be an interface between the government and the National Assembly and, of course, the people of Nigeria. So I think that the outcome of this interface will certainly bring out the bills that are acceptable to all, or at least most Nigerians.
All right. Thank you so much, Senator Abba Moro. I hear you when you say that what we should be focusing on is the way forward, but I do think that Nigerians deserve an explanation, especially because we had Mr. Oyedele here yesterday, and he had maintained that they had consulted widely, and in fact, a lot of Nigerians were happy with the tax reform. He said that they had consulted the 36 states of the Federation through their finance commissioners and chairpersons of the Internal Revenue Service. They had done their due diligence. However, there was some kickback from states that he thought would be in support of this based on certain reasons that we need to understand. Because if he's saying that many people are happy with the bill, but if few people are saying they are not happy with the bill, then there's a disconnect, there's a problem. So I think it's good to revisit. Why is there that kickback? And then why can it not be resolved through the public hearings that were initially instituted or asked to be done by the Senate, and now we're asking for a total halt, until further notice? If it's in the best interest of the people, and a lot of people agree with it, why is the Senate kicking against it? Because of the northern leaders who have come out to say they don't like it.
The Senate is not kicking against the bill, as perhaps, if I understand your question very well. In the process of lawmaking, there is no doubt that not everybody understands or agrees with everything. But in the end, it is the opinion or the agreement of majority of the people that in a democracy carries the vote. And that is what we're doing here. I want to say here that no document, not even the Constitution of the Nigerian nation, that is a grand norm, is perfect. And so, yes, government says they have consulted very widely. But here we are. Some persons say, no, this thing is not as perfect as it should be.
Yes, sir. So what are
and
the
not
issues?
acceptable to all of them.
All right, Senator Abba, what are the issues identified? I think it's important to, because, we've talked about this a number of times. Mr. Oyedele has identified the benefits to the Nigerian people, and in the interest of educating the public, what are the issues that have been identified? What's wrong with the bill?
Well, I also want to, at this point, agree with you that going through the bills, at least to the extent that some of us have, the bill is okay. It's good for Nigeria. Don't forget that at one of the budget presentation sessions, Mr. President had promised that he will plug all the loopholes, all the leakages in our revenue system. And so I think this is one of those steps that have been taken to do so. And of course, like I said, no document is perfect. The complaint generally, from what also we have seen so far, because we have had one or two preliminary meetings at the level of the committee, and the concern that people have indicated so far is about the VAT, the collection and distribution. And people generally are saying, look, VAT is a constitutional matter. And as far as the Constitution of Nigeria is concerned, what is known as VAT and its distribution is in the oil and gas industry or sector. And so this VAT postulation, which seeks to shift the model of distribution based usually on equity and equality and population to consumption, is to the disadvantage of certain communities. especially in the north, that is purely agrarian, that contributes collectively about 25% of the VAT in this country, against states like Lagos, for instance, that is apparently the commercial hub of Nigeria, that contributes 55%. And so, first, it is assumed that if you introduce derivation in sharing VAT now, you are going against the Constitution, because there is no constitutional provision for that. And so, if you jettison population and equality, it will significantly affect certain sections of the country. So these are the gray areas that have been identified so far.
Senator, good to see you and talk to you again. This is Rufai here.
Thank you.
Did they give you any empirical documents to back up their claim that if you charge VAT based on consumption, it was going to reduce how much they get in numbers? Did these people give you any empirical documents? Or is it just word of mouth that they say? Have they done the calculation? Did they give you any calculation? Because we have the calculation. We have the calculation based on scenario planning that Taiwo Yedele did, that shows that even these people complaining are going to gain more. In fact, it is Lagos and Rivers that now have to be complaining, because they are going to lose over 80% of their earnings. So these people that came to meet you about this VAT, did they give you any calculation to buttress their claim, or they just assumed? And if there's that document, can we see that document in the interest of public debate? Can we see their own document and their own calculation that says this consumption thing will affect them, this consumption derivation? And if there's that, can you show us in the interest of public, intellect and debates, analysis?
As at the point that I am talking to you now, we are in the process of collecting this information. And one of the problems that we have with the current scenario is the fact that a lot of hype had been introduced in the whole process. And going by social media accounts and some publications that have come out so far, the whole process has been so politicized that it is trying to introduce some kind of dichotomy between the North and the South. This is what we want to address. And so I will be in a better position if, don't forget that this committee was set up only yesterday, if we go around and invite critical stakeholders to a round table, I will be in a better position to present to you the position. But I can tell you that since this controversy arose, very many persons who were even against the bill ab initio have even come to say, hey, this thing is beautiful after all. And so I think that by the time further advocacy and sensitization is carried out, very many people who, out of lack of understanding, apparently, may have been kicking against this bill, will come to realize that the bill means well for the entirety of Nigeria.
Okay, Senator, so because if they finally send you that document, we would like to see it, if it's not too much to ask for. Because we just want to know the trajectory of this argument that is not holding water, that a couple of people are making. And Senator, I also want to ask you this question. Governor of government spokesman Boala was on TV yesterday, and he's saying the North is just doing political negotiation. Senator, do you honestly think that it's really about the VAT, or it's because of 2027? All of this that is happening. Do you honestly think it's about the VAT, or it's because of 2027? Because the government spokesperson, Mr. Boala, was on TV yesterday, and he said all of this is political negotiation. It's not about the VAT.
Well, first of all, let me tell you that it is not too much to ask, and I can promise you that by the time we collate all the statistics and information, that we are going to present to Mr. President and perhaps the Attorney General that we are going to discuss, I will make myself available to present those facts, statistics, facts and figures to you. It is not too much to ask. Two, I'm not given to conjectures. I'm a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And I won't come here to hazard a guess that it is all about 2027. Well, AIDS and the rest of them can go about that on their own. But for me, as a senator, and given what I know, I want to look at this thing from the point of view of the concerns raised. Whatever the ulterior motive is not before me. And so I want to insist that it is all about VAT. If political insinuations
Senator
are
Moro.
introduced, fine and good. But I again want to say that it is the politicization of these bills that is, in the first place, responsible for where we are now. So I don't want to look at the political side of it. I've been given an assignment to identify areas that are of concern to Nigerians or some part of Nigerians and to see how we can reconcile them.
Anyway,
Perhaps at the end of the
Senator
day,
Moro.
I can assure you that some of these concerns may be deemed to even be unnecessary.
Senator Abba Moro, to complain about negotiations, it's unnecessary hair splitting. Political negotiation is part of the oil of the game in a democracy. So whether there is negotiation or not, what Nigerians want is something that is in the interest of the people. But let me ask you, the assignment you have been given, what is the time frame? Because we don't want, consultation with the Attorney General's office to continue endlessly and become an under-the-table attempt to douse tension and draw attention away. And then, overnight, we just hear that National Assembly has passed the 4 bills. Because that happened in the past. When that assembly changed the national anthem, it was done nicodemously, almost overnight. So what is the guarantee? What is the time frame? When are you submitting the report? What is the guarantee that this will be transparent?
Well, thank you very much, Ruben. I want to say here that my assignment is not about political negotiation. It is about the economic implications of the bills that have been presented by Mr. President. And that is how I will look at it. And you know me too well, Ruben. I will not accept an assignment if I know that I cannot undertake it. This is not going to be an endless exercise, I assure you. That is why there is some level of fierce urgency in the resolution of the Senate that we must start today to meet with the Attorney General. The bills that we are talking about here after second reading was referred to the Committee on Finance and to report back to the Senate within 6 weeks. And therefore, any other incidental activity that is taking place now must take place within the ambit of that period, because we must be able to present our findings, our report, as you say, to the Senate to give a go-ahead for the continuation of the legislative process. Definitely, after this exercise, there must be a public hearing where everybody that is willing and prepared will be given a chance at the public hearing to ventilate his own position on the issue. But I want to assure you of one thing, that we'll definitely find answers to the questions that have been asked.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Abba Moro, for joining us on the morning show.